Are we good to go?
Yes, I think we are now live. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Shahab, and I have here with me the incredible Zahir Rahimtoola, who is the CEO of the pioneering fashion store, multi-brand fashion store of Pakistan, which was by the name of Labels. And later on, he also founded ECOM PK, which is an e-commerce and m-commerce company, and which has set up kind of some of the most leading fashion brands, retail e-commerce stores in Pakistan. So I'll just hand over to Zahir and let him introduce himself, and then we can, kind of introduce the different ways in which, you can kind of venture into e-commerce, what are the different barriers and how they can be overcome, and how, he can kind of be of help to small businesses and startups who are kind of looking at venturing into e-commerce. So over to you, Zahir.
Thank you, Shahab. Thank you for inviting me. I'm truly honored to be a part of your forum. I think this is a very important forum that you've set up and at a very important time. So very quickly, before we get into it and do a deep dive, I want to give a small introduction for everybody who is watching this show, so that they know, where I'm coming from. I started off as a hotelier. I worked in hotels for about a good 8 years, and that was a great learning experience because I learned a lot about the service industry and serving people per se whilst working at hotels. Subsequently, I had an opportunity to set up a textile buying house, which was one of Pakistan's first textile buying house, called Quincy Private Limited, and we were representing some of the major U.S. Buyers, companies like Urban Outfitters, companies like Columbia Sportswear, major importers, retailers. So along the way, in 1996, I sort of thought we had a lot of overruns that were there because we were sort of shipping to a lot of brands, and that is how the idea of labels germinated. We had an office building and we had a reception area. I was doing nothing with it. So one fine day, I decided to blow it off because Pizza Hut had come into Pakistan. The satellite generation was opening up, and there was a change in the way we were sort of moving forward. We're getting more connected to the Western world. So I set up Labels. Labels has become the first fashion retail store of the country. We started off as an outlet store, mainly with overruns, and by the grace of Allah, it was an overnight success. It started being written up about, and we continued to grow. Then, and from an outlet store, because there was no fashion place, and there's a very famous designer called Mahin Khan who suggested to me that why don't we bring in Eastern clothing, and I wasn't one for it, but then I sort of listened to her, and we became Pakistan's first fashion retail store, giving birth to a lot of big designers. 9/11 happened. And before 9/11, I was also fortunate to open up the first Levi's and Docker store in Pakistan. We had a franchise, we had a license on 4 stores, and that was a great learning experience because it taught me a lot about international business, international franchising. And whilst we were with the Levi's stores, 9/11 happened. And 9/11 is similar to what we are going through at this point in time. American buying stopped. A lot of American buyers got out of the business. Fortunately for me, I had Labels. And the good part was that, when one door closes, another door opens. And so the sensibilities for women in Pakistan became wearing Pakistani clothing. And that's how we sort of moved into this area. And we, like I said earlier, we became the base to a lot of designers who are now, some of the biggest designers in the country. What happens with Pakistan and what we need to realize is that we are at a slight disadvantage. We are at a slight disadvantage because we don't enjoy the transient population that the world enjoys, even within the region. So if you were to go even to a place like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or India, they have a high level of tourism, business tourism. Especially in a place like Karachi, you don't even have the luxury of that because you don't have, if you're in Lahore, you still have, Sialkot, Gujranwala, the surrounding areas where you do bring in traffic. So one of the biggest challenges in Pakistan is, having an unfriendly retail environment and trying to survive. So for the first 10 years, it was great because there was no competition. We were the only ones. So we did, we launched a lot of photographers, models, stars, etc. But then, we also do have a flock of sheep mentality. And so then, one store after another store started popping in. And by 2010, I think there were more multi-brand stores, fashion retail stores than the streets of Karachi. So there was cannibalization of business. The pie was small because, like I said earlier, that there was no transient population. And I had to I started thinking of ways and means as to how do we sort of change the dynamics of business and survive. And then Net-a-Porter happened to be launched in the UK, and I said, "Wow, this looks great. Hopefully we can do this kind of a thing." And the thing is about fate is when you start thinking in a direction, I don't know, the universe starts helping you. So along the way, I met a young gentleman. Those days he had gelled hair, etc. His name was Athar. He was a graduate from Zabis, but he's a genius. So I sat down with him and I, spoke about Net-a-Porter, and I said, "Can we put something like this together?" And he said, "Give me 30 days." And sure as he came back in 30 days, and he had labels each store, the wire, not the wireframe, but the store in itself ready. And what he said was that, now what do we do? So that's when, on the spur of the moment, I decided that we'll take the inventory of the Labels Karachi store and go online so that it would be a support system to the store. Lo and behold, we launched on the 1st of August. I remember our very first order was from the US. It was for a Hassan Shariar outfit. I still remember those days, it was $425. Athar and I could not believe it that somebody would buy such an expensive item without even knowing us. And then there were a lot of challenges. There were challenges because there were no payment gateway systems. There was no call center. So it was he and me, the head cook and bottle washer. But that was a great learning experience for us because we sort of were able to do everything by our hands, and sort of Athar would, man the system, take the calls, do the customer service. A lot of business was coming out of the US. One of the things that we did was that our pricing was whatever the price was locally, so we did not up anything on. And so we built up a band of people who hated us, and that was the baggage brigade, because previously what happened is that a lot of women would come to Pakistan, take products, shop, and then, mark it up 300-400%. And I started getting calls that, why are you putting prices on your website? And I simply told them, I said, it's too late. The genie's out of the bottle. The dynamics are going to change. And, the sooner just as we are on a changing turf, you need to change. Fortunately for us, on the 12th of August, 12th of August 2012, Times of India did a sort of story on us, and Mashable picked it up. And so we, our growth was just phenomenal. We started growing at a fast pace. And what was happening is that we did, and the reason I'm telling this story so people sort of know that, it's not something that we built with millions. It was something that we started from scratch. And our inventory started blowing out. So the problem here was that what do we do? How do we sort of, here we built this Rolls Royce and we didn't want it crashing against the wall. And that's when we worked out that we need to go into what is called a white label operation, is setting up websites for other companies. Because at that point in time, in 2012-13, if you saw advertising or major retailers, there was never a mention, there was never a URL. It was only stores that were mentioned. So the first store that we actually did a sort of an online store was Bonanza. It was successful. Then fortunately for us, Shamoon, the owner of Khadi, he was very supportive, and we launched the Khadi website, the online store, which was followed by Al Karam, and then we had Generation and a whole lot of them. So that gave us a lot of experience. So from a 2-person company, we grew to a 63-person people company, which we are at this point in time. So primarily, our focus has now been on the white label operation. But again, when you have an e-commerce business, it's just not e-commerce. E-commerce is you're building a car, you're building a beautiful car, you need a driver to drive it. And to drive it, the digital process becomes very important. So we had to open up a digital arm to support the buying process, to reach out, because unless you don't reach out to people, how will people know about you? So we created this outreach through a digital process. Fortunately for us, the government of Pakistan was sort of looking at building an initiative for the country to reach out, to talk about, because one of the biggest problems Pakistan has suffered is the question of perception. There are a lot of wrong perceptions. Secondly, there are a lot of opportunities in the country and people don't know about it. People don't know about it beyond the frontiers of Pakistan. So the Ministry of Commerce had a lot of faith in us. It was the secretary, his name was Yunus Daga. We sat down with him and we launched what is called Emerging Pakistan, which is Pakistan's largest initiative. It still exists irrespective of change of government. It's equally supported by this government, and it has over 1 million fans, and it's become a connect between business in Pakistan, between business outside of people wanting to do business and coming into Pakistan. So interesting things are happening. Then there was then recently of late, the government of Pakistan, coronavirus came in and there was no dashboard where people could sort of figure out where to see the real numbers, the authentic numbers. So fortunately for us, and the credit goes to my partner Athar, that within 48 hours, along with NITB, we set up what is called the covid.gov.pk dashboard, and I'm proud that Facebook is even sort of following us, and most newspapers, practically everyone takes stats from us, including NDMC. So, the journey has been very interesting. It's from one end to the other. And so this is a short sort of introduction about myself. When I keep on hearing stories. Go ahead, you saying something, Shiva? Okay. So oftentimes what happens is when things go wrong, a lot of people, everyone gets into a negative kind of a mode. People start thinking, okay, what's going to happen? It's the end of the world. But there's a saying that the phoenix rises from the ashes. And I personally think that as bad as coronavirus is, and people are dying, we don't know how many deaths will take place. But having said all this, I personally believe that it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity simply because we need to understand e-commerce in Pakistan. E-commerce in Pakistan is very different from the rest of the world. If you were to look at the rest of the world, the Western countries, or for that matter, our neighbor India, most e-commerce is a marketplace e-commerce, i.e. you have a platform like you have in Daraz, where you have a platform and people go and sell over there, and that's how the business works, and that is how it is. I think we're partly responsible that because we went into this white label business of setting up a lot of independent stores, Pakistan became an inventory-based operation, i.e. stores selling independently and not going on to a specific platform. Also, we need to understand that the biggest player or the biggest product that sells online is lawn. And thanks to the women of Pakistan who are so fond of wearing lawn, that practically everyone on the e-commerce platform is doing extremely well. And I think, if you look back 2 years and you look at it today, because these stores went into an e-commerce platform, today they are still able to make sales. I mean, just imagine if we had this lockdown and there was no e-commerce, our entire retail business would go bankrupt. So having said that, my take is, how do we leverage this situation? It's very simple. You have grocery shops, you have women working out of the home, you have neighborhood places. So there are two ways. Number one is for independent people to set up web stores, small web stores, and first look within their own area. One does not to be too ambitious. I always believe that you take one step at a time and you start building a platform. It's not very difficult to build a platform. I'll come to that a bit later. But I think a start needs to be made for whoever can do it. Whoever has a product to sell should definitely look at digitalizing their business, simply because the world as we know it does not exist. We have a new normal. The new normal is going to be digital. If you look at all the studies that are being put together, you are not seeing this thing going off at least till mid next year. And that's a long time. And within that period, within that framework, You just can't be sitting. You got to move on. Life has to move off online. Life is transitory. So the more people learn to digitalize in one form or another, I think it is critical to their own success, to their own growth. So you don't have to be a big store to have an online presence. So these so this is this so this look at all the studies that have been put together. You are not seeing going on. Hello. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. So this is how I view the process, is that we need to sort of, wherever possible, people need to sort of look at digitalizing their business. A very important part in this whole process when you digitalize is the user experience. That is something we learned very much early in this stage, because when you have an e-commerce setup or you have a web store, one must remember that you are not selling a product. You're selling an image, you're selling an aspiration. And I think that is very critical for people to understand. That means whatever you put online, the quality of photography has to be good, because that is what people are going to see. Secondly, your customer interface has to be seamless. You don't need to have great chandeliers to have an e-commerce store. All you need is something that is clickable, because we need to understand that a lot of people are now learning to go digital, right? There are a lot of older people, younger people are savvy, but there are older people who are now learning to click, So what you need to create is a platform that is, which gives you, in a couple of clicks, it gets you to your exit point, and that you don't have problem with the payment processes, and you're able to sort of move on very fast. And so in a nutshell, this is how the process works. I think, again, like I said, each store has its own individual personality. So it's very difficult to define what would a particular store looks like. You have to have your own vision. But yes, there is a broad-based template that one can work at. And look, today you don't have to be a rocket scientist. I mean, there are websites and there are websites and there are stores and there are stores, and you have Google searches which give you a lot of information. I believe that you just have to take that first step, believe in making it happen, working at it, and get going. Today, I'm also very happy to state that the government of Pakistan is also trying to look at setting up marketplaces to provide platforms for people who want to join the marketplace. Secondly, if you see, in the old ages, we had what is called the cooperative concept, where you had, if you took a dairy farm, there were 10 farmers who put themselves together and create a cooperative and create a sort of ecosystem. I think, again, there's an opportunity over here, either within people of the same sort of business or within the same areas, of setting up ecosystems, which will create the e-commerce platform. So yeah, so this is in a nutshell what I wanted to sort of say about e-commerce. And Shahab, if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Yes. So we see that when we compare the global scenario with Pakistan scenario, we are kind of lagging behind, or international other stores, or other countries are kind of much far ahead of us. So what do you think are some of the most important hurdles which kind of cause this, and how can one kind of overcome some of these hurdles, if not all of these hurdles? How did you overcome, if you could share your experience?
So here's my take on your question. Firstly, we are not lagging behind. I think our biggest force is our population of 35 and under, I guess, is about 75%. A lot of them are tech savvy. We have, I think, some of the best brains in the country, because if you see the development that our people do for international countries or for international clients, it's all there. What has been lagging has essentially been the government support initially, where today I'm happy to say that even the government is looking into it, because the previously had problems of international payment gateway system. PayPal is not operating out of Pakistan. Yes, you had a couple of international gateways like 2Checkout who charge a lot of money. So, you had to leave a lot behind. But today you've got banks like Habib Bank, Al Falah, UBL, a whole lot of them who are offering facilities. Also, NITB is in the process of developing an international payment gateway system where your entry levels would be very less. So primarily, I think what is important is for people who want to get into business is to, there are a lot of freelancers who would be more than happy to build. I was having a conversation this afternoon with my partner, and I said, look, how can we help support this process? And what we are willing to do, and you can sort of give our email address, is for young entrepreneurs or people who don't know how to go about it, we are willing to develop e-commerce platform for them at no cost. And we can sort of work out a sort of a commission sharing percentage of the price point. So what would happen is, and this could be on a BOT basis. So, we set them up, we start them going, and then obviously it's a judgment call that they make, that they want to sort of go on their own or continue to work with us, because this is what we do with the larger retail operations. And I just feel that this is the time that Pakistan can forge ahead with a lot of products, and that's the advantage we have. We are more blessed than a lot of nations because we have food, we have agriculture, we have a young population. I mean, we have all the ingredients. So I think if people start thinking in this direction as to, digitalizing themselves to whatever way it is possible, I think it's a great opportunity.
And, there are a lot of e-commerce stores popping up these days, especially, the past even 2 years.
Yes.
So in the same segments as well. So
Yes.
what would, and, because you've worked in marketing and, just generally in e-commerce and established stores for a lot of different brands. So
Yeah.
what do you think is important, a few maybe suggestions that you could give to different businesses in terms of kind of standing out from, the crowd, whether it's in terms of value proposition or pricing or however?
True. Okay, so the first and the most important thing is, like I said, is the look and feel of your site. You need to get your photography crisp and sharp. Your user experience is very important. Word of mouth experience is very important. I give you an example. Just the other day, I wanted to buy some seafood and I was trying to figure out how do I sort of get it. And then a friend told me that, listen, why don't you go to this, you go online to this company and they've got amazing seafood. I went in, I logged in, I ordered. My experience was fantastic. It was delivered on time. I got a call, I got a message later, to confirm if I was happy with the product or not happy with the product. So this feedback is very, very important. It is not, everyone can't go spending money on Google AdWords and trying to build, because that is an expensive process. But yes, you have a lot of means. You have the Facebook, you have Instagram. I mean, if somebody were to sort of just allocate, between $80 to $100 a month initially to push themselves on Facebook, and our sort of acquisition rate in Pakistan is much cheaper than, is less expensive than what it is abroad, you would have a lot of sort of, at least you will have the eyeballs coming to you. Because the important thing of a website is that you need to attract. Once you attract that person in, then you got to hold that person. And to hold that person, 2-3 things are important. That of course your pricing matters. You don't have to be the cheapest or the most inexpensive product, but your product has to be good. Your service has to be good. And the single most important thing is delivery. Now here's a big advantage, with a big retailer versus a small retailer or a small e-commerce operation. If you're a small e-commerce operation, what I'd sort of term it as mom and pop, you have a store, you hire 2 people or 3 people to sort of deliver products. You deliver instantly. If I were to go to a major retail store, I place an order over there. It takes me 24 hours to 48 hours to get delivery, right? So the advantage for a small player is the speed of delivery. And today, let's be honest, everything is speed. If I see something, I want it immediately. So if people start thinking along these lines as to how can I have efficiency in my business, how can I deliver at a quick pace? How can I deliver a good product? How can I be competitive? Because if my numbers go up, then I can go into sort of, building a discounting process. So these are things, the tools are there. It is for each one to see, experience, and apply. Like I said, when I started, or we started e-commerce, nobody had a clue of what e-commerce was, right? So yes, we didn't do everything right. We fell along the way. We learned our lessons, but at each time we did not give up. We just felt, look, there's a corner. Let's turn the bend and let's move forward. And that is why we were able to sort of, create such a big, rather a pretty decent sized operation. So to answer your question, it's just, you don't have to be big. Size does not matter in this case. It is that product, the service, the quality of your website. And like I said, the most important thing is the last mile. Remember, the word last mile is very critical. And delivery matters. Now, either you work it, there are a lot of startup companies that have started delivering. You either use their services, they deliver at a fast pace, or you create your own sort of 2-3 people courier operation within the city, which would be great, because then you would be providing employment to a lot of young people. With the retrenchments that are happening, a lot of people are going to be unemployed, and people will be looking for alternate means of employment. Or even, you have intelligent people who are being laid off jobs, etc., who have the sense, who have the vision. So I feel that rather than lose hope, have the confidence, have the faith, and move on, because I'm pretty certain that the world is not going to come to an end. It's a new world. I mean, we've seen this. World War II, World War I happened, there was a new dynamics to the whole process. World War II happened, again, things changed. Then you had 9/11, things changed. Now, after coronavirus, we are never going to go back to being the same. Like I said earlier, it's a new normal. So we need to relearn, we need to re-educate. And those who relearn and re-educate are the people who will come out. Those who don't and keep sitting and waiting till kingdom come, trust me, they're going to be out of the game.
Okay, and so a lot of this is a problem that I have also observed, that sometimes small businesses and startups don't have a very clear idea in terms of exactly who their customer is. So when you started Labels, your kind of customers in terms of the designers that you wanted to probably bring on board, and also the end user was very clear, right? Because you stocked things from certain designers, and then similarly, in case of ecom, your kind of target audience was very clear. So what is the importance of this, in your experience, and how do you kind of, go about it, tweak it along the way? And yeah.
Interesting question. So let me tell you something. Something that was never a business proposition for me to begin with at the startup process. Funny thing, I saw a movie called Wall Street. And this is the old Wall Street. And I was very impressed with the clothing that was there. Michael Douglas, I think, was the actor over there. And I forget the other actor. And I said to myself, while I was watching the movie, that I'd love to create a men's store where I could, get the things I wanted, good ties, boxer shorts, pants, etc. And so that remained in my brain. And then when I decided to open a store and I looked around and I found that I couldn't get these products. So I had to change my vision. And so the next best thing I thought was I should become an outlet store, because those days products from Pakistan were being shipped to Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren, we were shipping to Urban Outfitters. So there was a lot of stock. So I thought of opening a glorified Zainab market, all right? And so I set that up and it met with success. But here's it. You have a plan, but things change. So as we were an outlet store, but when Maheen came and I spoke to her, I thought to myself that, look, this is even a better idea. So why don't we change? So instead of holding fast, at times we become very rigid in our thoughts that, no, this is my idea and I'm not going to change and I'm going to make it happen. And this is how it's going to be. Okay. But I listened to her, and guess what? we went into the fashion business. Though, to be honest with you, I didn't know a head or tail about fashion. I'm a business person. And so for me, again, it was a learning curve. I actually used to be at the store 5-6 hours working with the staff. And I worked because I wanted them to realize that if I worked, they could work. You know, somebody threw a tissue paper down, I went and picked it up so that it was management by example. So these are things that you sort of learn along the way. And lucky for me is that we had opened up a store at Park Towers. Park Towers was the Dolmen Mall those days. And we opened the labels over there. I thought that malls would do phenomenally well. Unfortunately, it did not generate the level of business that I was expecting. But then one fine day, Levi's walked into Pakistan, and guess what? We were sitting on prime real estate. We were right next to McDonald's. And they came to us and they said, listen, we'd like you to open a Levi's store. So opportunity came knocking at the door. I did not get onto an ego trip and say that, no, I'm not going to change the name Labels. I thought it's a great opportunity that, you know, we're getting to open an international store and buy it, you know, and we did open the first Levi's store. You know, history can't get that off our name. So this is it, that you have a vision. I have this belief. I never make long-term plans. I don't make plans. I just have visions, okay? You have a vision, you want to move along those lines, things happen, you start creating it, because just by having a vision and sitting down, nothing's going to happen. You've got to sort of move forward. You've got to make the effort. You just can't have everything in your brains. But once you start making efforts, trust me, you will find ways, people will come across, things happen. But then my advice to everyone is, don't be rigid in your thought. Allow changes to happen, because, you know, as we all know, and I said earlier, life is all about transitions. So you must learn to change. I mean, if we had stayed just wooded on having Labels as a retail store and not moved into the e-commerce space, trust me, I mean, I would have been 6 feet under at this point in time, because of the way our business is, with the lack of transient population, with the cannibalization of business. So I think it's also very important. One of the most important things I think, I personally, my advice to younger people is read. Today, there is so much of information available. You know, it's on the net, it's there in the books. Reading is a very, very important process, because when you read, your thoughts expand, you get ideas. And trust me, I've learned a lot simply out of reading, because when you read something, your mind opens up, you're reading somebody else's mind, and that kind of helps you expand and do whatever you want to do at the end of the day. And again, you know, like I said, that e-commerce is just not related to selling lawn or grocery. I mean, there are so many ways and means you can sort of, everyone can leverage this business in their form and format. I'm not an expert to sort of say how to do it, but I just feel that if one searches or looks for it, there's definitely going to be ways and means. Especially the West is completely digitalized, so there's so much to take from them. You know, we don't need to go into scientific labs. We just got to see what the rest are doing. So, you know.
Okay, so, and we were speaking about, you know, Facebook spend or social media spend a little while ago.
Yes.
You know, you're one of those people who have, you know, kind of very creatively maintained contacts, and, you know, whether it's with celebrities, whether it's with the media, whether it's with the bloggers, you know, over the period of years. And I remember, you know, some very interesting collaborations that used to happen, you know, between Hello and celebrities and labels, right? So what would be your kind of, you know, some tips or suggestions in terms of using, you know, PR creatively and just relationship building creatively, so that you don't have to just kind of rely on running ads, you know, so that you kind of build a brand and you also kind of, you know, have some organic reach while using someone who's already popular?
Correct. So, you know, one of the things about the digital business, and I'm no expert, but from what little bit I know of it, first and foremost, I think it's very misunderstood. People think when you talk digital, they think Instagram post, Facebook post, okay? People don't realize that the basis of this whole social media is blog. Blogging is very, very important, because when you create a blog, you add content, so you get the right keywords going, so you have a Google ranking coming in. Then what you do is that off your blog, you move into multiple directions, right? So you put something on Instagram, you put something on Facebook, you put something on Twitter, and LinkedIn, which is not a used channel, but in my personal opinion, I think it's a great social media channel because you've got a lot of people who are in the corporate sector who are listening, who can make connections, etc. So first and foremost, I think, and my suggestion is that instead of chasing people and chasing, Instagram, I think people should look at developing blogs because it's their story. When you start putting your story out over there, and then what happens is that as you have a blog and you have these 3, 4, 5 social media mediums, you are doing a reinforcement. So if somebody sees you on Instagram, sees you on Facebook, sees you on LinkedIn, sees you on Twitter. Obviously, each has its own sort of version of it. Like on Twitter, you can't go over 144 words, so you just take a certain line of your blog. So number one is building this blog. Now I'll tell you something very funny. Every day in my Instagram sort of feed or in my on the direct messages, I keep on getting young bloggers sending me messages. Sir, we want to collaborate with you, and we will push your, we will push your brand, etc. And then I look at the numbers, and it's like 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, and obviously we have a much larger sort of. So to begin with, one needs to find something unique as to what can you offer. Let me tell you something. What I really appreciate about our stars, about our celebs, most of them are extremely cooperative. But you can't just go like the rest of the pack and just offer the same thing that you're offering. Like a couple of days, this is a brilliant example. A young YouTuber, she made a sort of a parody on Humayun Saeed's very famous movie, the play that took place recently with Aiza Khan and Adnan. And she did a real funny parody of it. And she sent me a personal message. She said, "Sir, I'll be very grateful if you can request, Aiza, Humayun, Adnan, one of them to like what I've done." And so and she was really requesting deep down from her heart. So I requested Humayun. I said, "Listen, take a look at this, and if it makes sense to you, please like it, okay?" And he liked it. And this girl was over the moon. And just simply by that one act, she got so many more followers because here you had a celeb who supported the process. So what I'm trying to say is that you have such wonderful people who are there to support you, but you need to reach out to you need to know how to reach out to them. But if your story is right, trust me, they're going to listen to you. And when you talk about our collaboration with Hello and with all the, I think we shot with all the major stars. One of the reasons they did it, because at the end of the day, look, everybody wants to see what is in it for them. All right. So I still remember Armina Khan, we did that photo shoot with her, and she had just finished Bin Roy, and we did that photo shoot. And the producers of the other movie, which she acted in, I'm trying to recall the name, sorry, I'm growing old, but she was casted immediately for that movie. Why? Because the producer happened to see the shoot in Hello, and that's how it happened. So the point I'm trying to make is that everybody needs to find some unique point where they can grab the attention of that person or celebrity if they want to push vis-a-vis a celeb collaboration. Yes, everyone there are tons of people asking for collaboration, so people do get tired and they want to stay away from it. But this collaborations or influences is just not it. It's your own strength. It's what you put out, how interesting you make it. If you make your Instagram page or your Facebook page interesting with interesting data, information, or product, trust me, you really don't need to go out to reach out to celebs or influencers. People will come to you automatically because people want something which is against the grain of sand. So, everyone's going in direction X. You need to look, how can I go in direction Y and make it interesting for somebody that people start looking at? I mean, that's been my philosophy of my life. I mean, I'm going from a hotelier to a buying house to going into fashion retail and going into e-commerce. And trust me, I had no formal education other than the hotel part of it in learning. So you learn along the way and you use your brains and you see what's happening. and you take it from there. I mean, this is how it is.
Great. So, and I know that you said that, we can maybe, and I think now, maybe we can do a session with Athar on like, more specific how to and stuff. So if you had to, kind of give advice to someone who is kind of looking to start an e-commerce store,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Well, like I said, there are a few ways. Number one is there are platforms available, if you know, like WordPress, etc. They're the simple ways to sort of start it up. A, B, like I've said earlier, and I make that offer again to our Pakistani people, young people who want to start up, irrespective of age, because age is just a number. But those who are genuinely interested in sort of doing something or starting their own and trying to rebuild their lives, please do contact us. We would be more than happy to see what the product is. So what we require is a brief that we have these products. We want to go online. Is it possible? A few images. So if you get an email across us, our team can sort of go through a vetting process, and we can certainly help these people without any cost launch the platform. We can give them the platform to start off, and then of course it is then for them to take it, because it's like we can take the horse to the pond, but then it is for the horse to drink the water. So yes, so we can help start a lot of young businesses if they want. And I think that's that is the simplest way to do it. Of course, there are other informal ways of doing it. You have an Instagram sale channel, then you have Facebook through which you can sell. You have these smaller channels at the end of the day. Not small, but they are lesser operational. But let me tell you something. Why an e-store is important? Because that adds to the credibility of the buyer. All right? He sees your store. He sees your product. He's able to do a transaction which is a legit transaction and not send money by Western Union or some other process, which honestly speaking is illegal, because sending money for business by Western Union is not permissible by the state bank laws. It is meant to be person to person. Therefore, setting up an e-commerce store, you have a payment gateway. The money transactions are clean. It's a business, and then it gives you chances to grow. And look at the best part of it, that if you make a success of your e-commerce platform, you have thousands and thousands of VCs, venture capitalists, who are willing to invest into your business, right? So if you do it right, chances are that somebody may want to come and buy you out, and you go home laughing. And so that's the plus side of the process. I don't say that everybody should think of setting it up and dreaming of getting a VC and getting a few $1 million. But yes, this has been happening all over the world. And that is why I say finding that unique product is very, very important. Being different from the rest of the pack is very important. Leading from the front is very important. Because let me tell you, it's always the first, second, third one who sort of goes ahead of the race. And one needs to be innovative. One needs to think out of the box. No idea is a crazy idea. No idea is a wrong idea. No idea is stupid unless it's tested. And if one fails in an idea, it's not wrong. You just try to make the changes and you try to move on. So that's my two bit as far as how one should start up and get going.
Okay, perfect. And so I think now we can start taking questions if anyone has any. So I have a question from Saira. She is asking if you have any e-commerce training booklet, kind of sharing hands-on experience for Pakistani budding entrepreneurs. Maybe maybe we can.
Well, I must thank Saira for an idea. Hopefully, I'm able to pull out some time and put something together. But to be honest with you, e-commerce is a very universal product. There is a lot available on the net which guides you. I mean, if you just Google how do I start an e-commerce store, and you get 10,000 articles. All right. Now, what happens is that when you go through all of that, and then you look at the local sensibilities, and you try to figure out as to how can that fit into the local sensibilities. So it's not rocket science, like I said, and but it's a good idea. Hopefully someday I can sort of, when I start retiring, I can start writing these books. At the moment, there's a lot of work
Yes.
to be done. The good part and the bad part about e-commerce is that's 24/7. Before e-commerce, I used to sleep at 11. Now I don't know what time I sleep because it's an ongoing process. You're always in a sort of no, I wouldn't say crisis mode, but you're always in a work mode because you're operating with the rest of the world. So while it's night over here, it's day in the West, and it's the reverse. So you are sort of operating throughout all time zones. So yes, it takes off your sleep, but it's great. I have no complaints.
I think that's, one of the kind of, I wouldn't say disadvantages of kind of being digital, being too digital. So, but that's
But
the future.
let's
So,
be honest. Let's be honest, Sharab. This is the future. This is how our lives are going to be.
Exactly.
Time is going to be of no consequences. 4 o'clock may not be 4 o'clock that we did things, or 1 o'clock may not be 1 o'clock when you ate food. By the time we come out of this, which I'm hoping in 6 to 8 months, uh, we would be very changed in the way we do things and the way we work. So our hours will go longer. We'll become more insular, less social. Sometimes it's good because it gives you more time on hand. So yes, and the interesting thing, and this is something that's great, which everybody should start thinking, is what's going to be the new normal. How is life going to be post coronavirus? And how can we take advantage? And how can we leverage this? This is thinking time that we are getting.
Yes.
Because when you're at peace, you think of different things, and you think of how that this is the situation. How can you change the situation? And the best part is that the government, our federal government, our state government, they're all being very supportive. People think that it's only for big business, but trust me, you reach out to the people. Today, if you see the Ministry of Commerce, they're on Twitter, all right? You send any message to them, and immediately you get a response from any part of the world. They're there to support efforts. You're the Ministry of Industries. So it is one misnomer I have seen with a lot of people is that people think that there is a compartmentalization between the government and the public. Trust me, it's not. It's a misconception. If we reach out to the people, because they're also Pakistanis, they are brothers and sisters. Bureaucracy is not something different. Armed forces is not a different country. They are all part of us. The thing is that a lot of people don't want to venture out and are fearful that they may not get a response. Well, let's say what's the worst case situation? You will not get a response. Today, everyone is so scared of Twitter that if you get a wrong response, people go bashing. So trust me. And I keep on repeating Ministry of Commerce because they were the ones who actually took the plunge into going right across the board to 80 different trade offices around the world and building that support system. Today, if you want to sell something to, let's say, Cairo, and you send a tweet to our officer in Cairo, she's a wonderful lady, by the way, her responses will be immediately, or for that matter, in Turkey or any country. So today, the government has provided you with a platform to reach out to a lot of countries where we had no access, thanks to the digital world. So this is what I'm saying is that people, don't be fearful, reach out, talk to these people, talk to the government, talk to State Bank. Everyone's willing to help out today. And especially because of coronavirus, everybody is very empathetic, is willing to sort of listen, give a ear, provided, of course, you don't come up with stupid things. I mean, that's the flip side of it. But if you have a genuine product, if you have a genuine interest, if you have a genuine inquiry, trust me, there are a lot of avenues of people that are going to listen to you and be helpful. It's happened in my case. I mean, we started with scratch. So that's how it is.
That is very true. So, acha, okay. So, the last question I will probably ask is that, you said a little bit about the payment gateways, and I know a lot of people who think about e-commerce, and when they hit a full stop, it's because of the payment gateway system. So, if you could kind of elaborate on that a little bit, in the sense that what are the present systems that can be used, in terms of getting around the absence of PayPal, or getting payments from international different other countries.
Well, the best platforms are our own banks. So if you approach, like I said, Habib Bank or UBL, Bank Al Falah, they would be more than happy to sort of, guide them through the process. Then you have these wallets that are there, but for credit card transaction, etc., you do need to go through a bank process. So they would be the best people to reach out. They do have a certain fee. I'm certain that given the present circumstances, they would be more than amiable to assist the process. And more importantly, once the Pakistani gateway system is set up, this would make life much, much easier for everybody to sort of get into the game. But for more information, like I said, my partner Athar, he has more technical knowledge. I've given you his email address, so please have people feel free to email into him, and he can sort of give more details, in-depth details as to how to do it. But let that not be an impediment.
Amazing. So I think Athar is also watching, and I think that we will probably start talking to Athar about setting up another one of these sessions, where we can kind of take more specific how-to questions. And
yes.
Any last thoughts that you would like to add before we end the session?
My thoughts are, and I keep saying that despite what is happening and the bricks are falling, this is one of the greatest opportunities, especially for a country like Pakistan, because we've got debt relief, we're getting additional funding, the world is more sympathetic. I think there's no greater opportunity that we have or we are going to have. And so let us try and make the most of this rather than be negative and think that the world is collapsing around us. This life is not in our hands. Life, we are essentially, we are Muslims. We believe in fate. But as long as we have that life, let's make every moment worthwhile and live every moment of our life. And there'll be good days, there'll be bad days. I don't say everything is hunky-dory. People get into depressive moods, people have mood swings. But irrespective of that, please, my request is that stay positive, be positive, and take advantage of the opportunities that that nature is providing us at this point in time. So on that note, I want to wish everybody, that they stay safe, they wear their masks, practice social distancing, very critical. This is not going to end very soon, but let's make most of it whilst we are, taking precautions at the same time. And Shah, thank you for having me over.
Thank you, Zahir, for taking out the time.
No, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for watching. And we will, if you are interested in kind of, setting up an e-commerce store and you would like to get in touch with Athar or Zahir, you can reach out to us and we can share their email address with you. And also we will start working on setting up another session with Athar, and we'll announce that soon. So thank you, Zahir. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.